You had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back, yes, episode 154 episodes of MinneZona Sports Live. And without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Callahan, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., etc., etc. And all the way from Granite City Studios in St. Cloud, Minnesota, Paul Volta. Shield. What's going on, Shield?
It is another Wednesday, my dudes. Can I get a hiya?
Hiya!
Yeah, it's awesome. Great, as always, to be here. I mean, it's pre-Canada Day, pre-4th of July. All looking forward to a great holiday weekend coming up here very soon. A lot of people are going to be having a long holiday weekend coming up. But you know what? We still got some stuff we need to talk about here for tonight, too.
You know, there is a lot of stuff to talk about. And the thing is that we're going to be playing this little interview that we did on Monday. First of all, this needed to be addressed, and second of all, a lot of people have been asking. There's been some animosity / beef / whatever you want to call it.
Whatever.
Between myself and this Bears fan. He goes by the name of Mitch Riibe. We did an exclusive interview with young Mitch, and the showdown. It commences in a minute or two here, as we all have to see this coming. And to be honest with you, it had to happen. The question is, did we bury the hatchet? Did we not bury the hatchet? You're gonna find out, and you probably won't find out through this interview.
Yep.
But I want you guys to check out the part 2 of our games that we had between each other on Popcorn Bucket List, Entertainment. It's awesome, man, and we had a blast. We'll see who comes out the victor in that. But that'll be dropping on Friday, so make sure you check that out and see who gets the W. But the first half, it was rough for both of us. And the thing is, it was anyone's game, and second half, we're going all out. That's all that we can say here. But after we show you that exclusive interview with Mitch, the North Remember returns with a very interesting one. And I think this is a culmination of this big signing that happened on the 4th of July. Since the 4th of July is coming up, we just thought this was a good one. Parise and Suter signed with the Minnesota Wild. We're just going to talk about, that big signing, and then also just kind of how it's still affecting us to this day as well. So we'll be talking about that. Then Air A, we've got a lot talking with that. We got the Wolves with the big news. NazReid is back with the Timberwolves. Some NHL news, and then got some NFL news with the Jets. Dalvin maybe going to the Jets. I don't know. And then NFL gambling. Just recently, we've heard some news upon that. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. But first, we settled this little beef between myself and Mitch Riibe. He's going to join us literally right now. So chime in on the chat. We talk a little bit about the Bears, his poor excuse for a team bear. I'm just kidding. Not as much as those Green Bay Packers, which we do talk about for a little bit as well. So, Voldy, let's get it going. Let's talk to Mitch here. All right, welcome back to MinneZona Sports Live. This has been a long time coming. You know, this Mitch guy and myself kind of have this little beef between us and things like that. So we decided to have him on the show because we might as well just kind of talk a little bit about it and go from there. But Mitch, welcome to the show. We appreciate you coming on, and unfortunately, we have to look at that Bears gear that you have there. So, welcome.
It's not a displeasure. It's a true glory of the Chicago fan base to be able to finally impart some wisdom on the ringless Minnesota Vikings and really, take our knowledge and wisdom we have from the 80s and maybe help you guys out a little bit.
Just from the 80s, huh?
We tried in 2006. Peyton Manning had a different story, but
maybe more on that later. We'll see.
Yeah.
But Mitch, we kind of had this little beef going. There was
apparently I was giving the wrong credit to the wrong people. Apparently,
you're right. And the thing is I wasn't the only one that worked on that project. FYI. But I heard that and I'm like, I think I should address it on Popcorn Bucket List. And, Nick said, go ahead and do it. So I said what I said. And, there's obviously I believe that I should have been mentioned because I do think you know me well enough and things like that. So I don't know why you think our Kerf doctor, our guy here on MinneZona Sports Live, did all that work, just did it all by himself magically, apparently. So, what do you have to say for yourself here? Open forum. Go ahead.
So let me firstly say that I spent a lot more time with Kerf Dog than I did with you.
That's true.
Fair enough.
And I thought that he just had that talent and he was that dog. He was that guy. He is him. And I think it had come up at a couple media club meetings that you guys you had done the voiceover, and a lot of you weren't there when I came into the program, so I just didn't know. I heard names, but I didn't put them to faces, and I obviously didn't spend the time, like I did with Kerf Dog. So
just
unfortunately, that's my big
disrespectful.
That's my big defense here. But you can't deny that the talent isn't if someone were to say that, he did all that, you'd be like, oh, I could see that. Mm-hmm. I think he's got that talent. Not to discredit you guys, but he's that talented. He would have paid for the VO because obviously something's voiceover. But
hey, I didn't just do the VO. I was part of the editing process. I was very highly invested, Mitch. This isn't just old. No, I'm just messing with it. But
it should be said though that to not discredit anyone, to give props where props is due. That sports documentary is what really, like I said on PBL, it is truly what inspired me to do sports documentary and bridge that kind of storytelling with sports and kind of make that match made in heaven type situation. And it's a great process to get into. And right.
Obviously, it's a fun little, back and forth that we have and whatnot. And we had a chance to kind of settle it a little bit, Mitch. Playing some that NFL game that we played on Popcorn Bucket List. Part 1 is out now. Make sure you check it out on YouTube, Omni Entertainment.
Yep.
Mitch, low scoring so far from the
It is
first
0-0
half.
going into the half. It's classic, like I said on Facebook, classic Bears Vikings. Tough defenses across the board. Monster of the Midway, Purple People Eaters, classic matchup. Can't get anything on the scoreboard, but gosh darn it, those trenches are tough to fight in.
Yeah, that's so true.
I'll give you credit. Your passing game was immaculate. I couldn't defend it. I thought you would just run it down my throat, to be honest, and I was trying to play the blitz, but it just wasn't working out, obviously.
Well, Mitch, I did throw 3 interceptions the first half, so I mean, granted, we both had a lot of turnovers that first half.
That was riddled with turnovers. Good.
It just, I couldn't believe the game was just, I mean, you guys should check it out. Voldy is going to check it out too. But, part 2 comes out Friday. So make sure you guys check that out as well. And it's a fun time.
It's a great little sub-series that Omni does. It's basically the idea of it is that we take non-strategic games and we make adults play it. Because it's really hard to strategize a non-strategic game.
Well, let's get into sports here, obviously. So, Mitch, you are a Chicago Bears fan.
Through and through.
How did you become a Chicago Bears fan? And my second part is, are you from Chicago per se? Or what is the connection that you have if you're not from Chicago? What do you get?
Yep, so I'm not from Chicago, South Dakota, born and raised. It's 2 parts kind of how I became a Bears fan. Back when I was like 12, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And the only starting quarterback in the NFL at the time was Jay Cutler for the Bears. He had, I think it was like 2 or 3 years out, or no, 2 years maybe, from him being traded from the Broncos over to the Bears. The Broncos and the Bears did that kind of flop for Orton and Cutler. And then so that's the first part. That's what I was like, all right, I don't want to be a Vikings fan because I was already a Twins fan at the time. And it just wasn't
all that, yeah.
I don't have to tell you guys how that goes. And I wasn't too big into hockey or basketball yet, so I just was like, I don't want to be dual Minnesota sports. I just didn't want that. And my grandpa and uncle are big Bears fans, and they my grandma has family from the Chicago area, not in Chicago, but kind of that Illinois area down by Chicago there. So that was kind of the 2 pieces that kind of made it fall into place, was that my grandpa and my uncle were big Bears fans, and then also having the only type 1 diabetic starting quarterback, that's I connected with that a lot, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool that someone with the same disease as I have can start for an NFL team. I quickly learned that maybe that stats and stuff have an influencing factor on that, but it's actually the year that the Bears played the Packers in the NFC title game, and it's the infamous clip of Cutler riding the bike in the 4th quarter, and we're down by a touchdown maybe, and we're going on quarterback number 3.
Was that the Caleb Haney game? I think that was.
Yeah.
Was that Caleb Haney?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was a great year to be a Bears fan, because you make it to the NFC title game. It's like, next game is Super Bowl, baby. Let's go. I'm glad I'm a Bears fan. I picked good. And then down.
And then BJ Raji's catching an interception and taking it to the end zone for a touchdown. Yeah.
We'll get to our your hated rival, our hated rival in a second here, which this is perfect that you mentioned that. But Mitch, you look at this past season with the Bears. Obviously, you kind of know this is a rebuilding thing. You have a GM that comes in with pace, and he kind of pretty much gets rid of the old guard pretty quickly and says, "We'll build around Justin Fields." What are your thoughts on the Bears this year? What are you expecting from them
going into the season?
Going into the season, yeah. What do you got?
I have high expectations. Fields is going into year 3. Granted, he's had some coaching changes. However, going into year 2 with Eberflus being under Pace, I think Pace has done a really good job of being aggressive in a smart way. I don't love him picking up linebackers, because I just don't think the way the league works nowadays is linebackers are not the key defensive positions we should be focusing on. We should be focusing on, defensive ends, corners, and safeties. I think that is much more important to a defensive unit than a linebacker. However, the linebackers we did sign and get for the prices we got them at, I think is a really good job by Pace. Made me a little sad to see Montgomery go. However, I'm a Jordan Howard, Tariq Cohen diehard. Thunder and Lightning, Joystick, and the Ground and Pound. So when we drafted Montgomery under, get to who the GM was before Pace, and then also, oh gosh, I can't even remember the coach's name now.
Matt Nagy.
Nagy, he's such a gross memory in my mind that I just kind of throw him out.
I gotcha. Yeah.
High expectations though. I know everyone's on the Lions this season. Not to dish on the Vikings, but
right.
they've kind of done the same thing where they kind of just gutted house a little bit, and they've kept a few key pieces, but like I wouldn't be surprised if they're gunning to get this next quarterback class because it's a good one. You should, as from a organization standpoint, you should probably play for a strong quarterback class. Not saying that Kirko Chains isn't your future, but he's run his course. I would say he's earned the money he's gotten you, or you paid him.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, when you bring up Kirk, I mean, that's not just us saying that, but also, I mean, they wanted to figure out a deal, and the Vikings said, no, you're going to play out the contract, and then he's going to test free agency. So that's another thing to look at with that. You say high expectations, and I want to know what those expectations are. Are you saying playoffs? Are you saying they're going to win the division? What are you thinking? I mean, record wise, too. What do you think?
So here's where the optimism and the realism have to come in. Right? As a Bears fan, die hard, I want them to win the North. Maybe get like a second or third seed in the NFC because the NFC is much weaker compared to the AFC. I mean, the NFC's got the Eagles and the 49ers. That's the two powerhouses. Otherwise, it's realistically anyone's division.
Yep.
Like anyone from the NFC could really try to push for that spot as long as you maybe come up on a unhealthy 49ers or, Hurts goes into the season, gets hurt like week 10, and it's an injury that you can't make it back in time for the playoffs. So, which is unfortunate because Hurts is an amazing quarterback. And
he is.
Yeah.
But injuries like that happen throughout the season. So when you're only talking two NFC teams that you have to get through, division's kind of wide open. It's anyone's chance to play, whether it's the Bengals, the Ravens, the Chiefs, Bills, any of those AFC teams. So that's why I'm kind of high on them. Before we traded away the number 1 pick, I was very nervous. I was very nervous we were going to keep it and we were going to draft Stroud. I was worried that decision was that was the deal breaker between me being in love with Pace or being like, it's just like another Bears GM. Because it honestly, Fields wasn't drafted under Pace. So I thought Pace was going to have this ego about him and being like, he's not my guy. I don't want him, get him out of the building. But he, sucked it up and been like, hey, he's a talented quarterback. And I believe so. I know he's much more of a fantasy quarterback than an actual technical. You're drafting for fantasy and you just hope he makes the Bears work. But for him to buy in on Fields is a big statement. And I think a good confidence booster for Fields, because up until this point, just that week 1 game against San Francisco, that's the only shining light that dude has had with Chicago. There's he's got great 50, 60 yard run plays that he just takes off in the pocket from. But
you mentioned this guy, and I'll be honest with you, Mitch, I've never been really that high on him. But let's talk about Justin Fields. He's going into year 3, like you said, and you said, obviously he's got the, fantasy quarterback. He can run it, but can he throw it? And we've seen those games where he has been piss poor bad. And obviously, what the Bears did last year, I feel like, is they kind of kept him more involved with the run game, which is great. I mean, don't get me wrong, they improved almost dramatically when he was running all over defenses and things like that. I mean, even Mike McDaniel was like, "Stop running all over my defense," type of
Yeah.
thing. So you talk about, the year 3. I mean, let's just say Justin does not take that step. I mean, is Pace going to start looking at options after this season, things like that? But if he improves, if he's like, I think we see something there. I mean, he has to have a breakout year, and there's people even going too far to say as he could win MVP, and it's like, let's not go that far.
Yikes.
So I asked this of you, Mitch, and then Voldy, I want you to chime in on this too. But I mean, this is an absolutely prove it year for Justin Fields, wouldn't you say, Mitch?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like before the discussion of like, oh, he doesn't have an offensive line, he doesn't have hardly any weapons. And I allowed that because let's be real. Darnell Mooney is a great receiver, but he's no number 1. And arguably he's tough number 2. Like he can be a great number 2, but that number 1's got to be a number 1. So I think with what we've assembled, now 3 years down the road, I don't know how this group is gonna look, just with cap and everything and money and whatnot, because everyone's gonna want to get paid. However, I think DJ Moore being the tall receiver he is, his speed, his ability to catch the ball, Claypool with, similar build, just tall, speedy, and then Mooney on whether he's, if you have to cover those two on top of Kmet, and then you're looking for a running back out of the backfield, Claypool's going to get one-on-one coverage, and I would love Claypool to get one-on-one coverage for 50% of the snaps he's in on, because that dude is a speedster. So as long as people are single covering him, Fields has worked with Mooney for the entire time he's been in Chicago. So I don't see why that relationship doesn't take its next step. And I think that's why I'm very confident. And you got to remember that the last 2 seasons, Justin hasn't had very good wide receiver core, and his offensive line hasn't been that good. So naturally, he's just going to have to gravitate towards running the football and just having to be that run threat, similar to like Lamar Jackson or even Jalen Hurts for that. Now, he doesn't have the offensive line like Philadelphia does. But I would argue his weapons are better. So I think he takes that pocket pressure or that pocket passer leap that he needs to, and that elevates the Bears franchise just as a whole, like altogether. He's going to make, iron, or is it iron sharpens iron or steel sharpens steel? Whatever that saying is.
Either or.
Yeah, either or. They're playing against a passing running threat like I think the Bears are. That defense is going to be ready for a Philadelphia type team that not a lot of teams are, I think, ready for. I mean, we saw it last season. Everyone was scared to play the Eagles, and rightfully so either. I mean, they make it to the Super Bowl and everything. So I think that's why I'm so high. I think they have everything they need. And every sportscaster, every analyst, everyone is like, it just comes down to whether Fields can play or not. And being a Buckeye, I think he can come up and clutch it out. I know they don't have the greatest track record, but I would take Fields in this situation over someone like CJ Stroud or any of the rookie quarterbacks who are in this class. I was very happy that we stuck with Fields and we were able to make a trade with Carolina. And to answer the back end of that question, if Fields doesn't take that leap, I know a lot of people think the Panthers are going to do well this season. I think they need 1 year to figure things out. So hopefully that first round pick that they traded us for next year is a high pick, and we can go out and get our guy if Fields doesn't for some reason work out.
So it's almost like there's a contingency plan, which is actually pretty smart and Pace's mind as well. So Voldy, what do you think?
It just really comes down to a couple of things, and Mitch did bring it up too, is obviously if you can protect Justin Fields, I mean, he's certainly capable of extending plays, and especially being able to, if he feels more comfortable in the pocket, because the last couple of seasons he's just been running for his life for the most part and just trying to survive, and it hasn't really helped, especially with the coaching changes and their systems not being acclimated to his his strengths or whatever. And if you can protect him and he can gel with this receiving core, and obviously they're going to be at a stage too in their careers where they're going to be more familiar, more comfortable with each other too, because he had Claypool in the back half of last season. You've got DJ Moore coming in for his first season as well with the Bears too. So if they can build that connection early, I mean, there's certainly going to be something to at least improve upon from last season for sure. It just really all starts with if you can protect Justin Fields, because obviously he's a playmaker. He can extend plays, and is he going to be maybe at the same level as Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson? I don't know. We'll have to see on that. But it really starts if that offensive line can come together and at least provide him that comfortability in the pocket. He could make some noise here this season and definitely make that next leap forward.
Who's the better quarterback, Daniel Jones or Justin Fields?
Oh boy.
Right now? That is actually a really good question.
That is a very tough question. At least in my mind, it is. For sure.
Me too. I'd go Justin. I would too, just because I think Daniel Jones is. I don't think he's that good, and people make him out to be this franchise, and the money that he got
because he's in New York. That's why.
Right. And that
does
too.
one thing right. I mean, he wipes his butt right, and he's on the front page of the news. That's
true.
just how it works in New York.
Did Justin Fields ever trip on the 13-yard line as he was running in for a clear cut 6 points?
Exactly. Yeah, you got a point, Mitch. You definitely got a point. And obviously, if you watch the playoff game versus the Vikings, you thought that he was a Pro Bowl quarterback, for goodness sake, and throwing all over the place, running. Obviously, you can't have that happen again next year, but we'll get to that in a second. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And thankfully for all of us here in this chat, Rodgers is out of the division, so claps out.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yes, clap.
So here's right.
God.
Toast, right? Mitch, obviously the I own you stuff, the blah blah, all that banter, blah blah blah. Now that he's gone, can your Bears finally beat the Green Bay Packers this year? What do you got?
Yes. Absolutely. I don't know how else to tell you. Do you think Jordan Love is going to do the same thing that Aaron Rodgers has been doing since 2008?
It's unlikely.
No, very unlikely. This dude has sat behind him for the past 3 seasons, but we've seen him start a couple games where Rodgers, had to, had some injury issues and had to sit out, and he's gotten better every time he's had to start. But that doesn't mean that he's Aaron Rodgers. I don't think there's a single quarterback in the NFL that is ever going to be Aaron Rodgers. The thing that I always said about Rodgers is I hate him. I absolutely despise him. He is cocky. He's arrogant. But the thing, you got to respect him because he can back it up.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was 2017. He was playing in Detroit, and they were down by 5 or 6 points, and he just launched it from his 30.
Oh, yeah.
Thursday night game, touchdown, last few seconds, game over. Packers win. And that's when Detroit was just terrible, just a god-awful, underside of the NFL. No, everyone's like, oh, you're playing the Lions? That's a W.
Mm-hmm.
So, the dude can just... do stuff that no other quarterback, I think Nick has mentioned this, but he has signed a deal with the devil to be just amazing at football and pull out immaculate moments in obscene ways, but he does it. So you have to respect the guy. I'm just glad he's out of the NFC North and he's out of the NFC altogether.
Yeah.
We don't have to play him until the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
So, and that's even if the Jets make it that far. He's got a way tougher road in the AFC now. He's going to be praying that he could go back to the NFC North when he played the Vikings, the Lions, and the Bears twice a year.
Right. So,
Just
yeah.
beautiful. I was so happy that I was worried that they weren't going to get it done. I thought the Packers were just going to be like, no, we're keeping him.
Right.
We can't get what we want for him. That's too bad. I'm like, no, please get rid of him.
We're
please,
taking our ball.
please.
We're going home.
Yeah. I don't need another I own you season. Please.
Yeah.
I'm just glad the Bears don't play the Jets. I'm glad
seriously.
that rotation didn't work out like that. That would have been terrible.
I bet. Well, the good news is neither of us or neither team has to face some Vikings or Bears. Thank goodness.
Let me ask you this: as a Vikings fan, would you guys be ready for Aaron Rodgers to be in the purple and gold, playing in the bank?
No.
And
the reason why
can't put myself through that again.
I was just thinking when you mentioned that about, the whole like Favre deal and whatnot, I feel like this is a little bit different. If they were to get Rodgers, I wouldn't be as excited because I'm just like, I just don't like the guy, And the thing is here, my opinion would change if he's holding up Lombardi with
purple and gold. Yes,
that would change. But I just don't think it's a good idea, and I feel like I don't know if they would welcome him in with open arms. That's the thing, and as they did with Favre, because we kind of did, and then. But here's the thing. That'll piss off Green Bay fans even more,
This
I was
is
going to
true.
say, is it worth pissing off Green Bay fans? Because that's always a riot. When you can just make Packers fans just squirm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like right now, this season's going to be beautiful. I'm like, oh, where's your beloved savior, Mr. 12?
Yeah.
Mr. Discount Double Check. Where's that guy at? Oh, you have Jordan Love now?
Yeah, exactly.
Good luck. I hope it'd be such a beauty if they ended up with the #1 overall pick next season.
That'd be interesting.
That it would, yes.
Oh man, but let's just say this: he's out of the division. The Packers, I could see as the cellar dwellers, as I think it would be a nice little tidbit there. But last thing before you go, Mitch. I mean, are you scared of the Vikings this year? I mean, you should be. I mean, yeah, we don't have Dalvincook. Yeah, we just got another solid wide receiver. Our defense is revamped. We got rid of Ed Donatello. Just kidding. Ed Donatel. And put in Brian Flores. Are you fearing the Vikings this year, Mitch?
Here's how it's going to go down.
Okay.
So that's a yes. Hesitation is yes.
Yep.
We'll split. We'll split with you. We'll each win our home games. When we go to US Bank, it'll be tough because you guys have a tough environment there with the horn, and it's a very nice. I haven't been inside, but obviously I've seen lots of pictures and videos, and it's very, very nice there. So I think it's a tough environment to play in at US Bank. But I think as long as we have Soldier Field still, which I think we will, Kirk just struggles there. And if it's I don't think it's a Monday night game, but if it is a Monday night game,
I think it is.
It's a win.
Of course it is.
I know it always happens, but the last few times he's had their number. But the thing is any
Monday
time
night
at
game
Soldier
and
Field,
Halloween.
I don't
That's
know.
when it usually is.
Right, Voldy, we talk about this on the show a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is, but there's something that happens when the Vikings go to Soldier Field and they just play awful, just absolutely awful. Even when they win, it's an
Yep.
ugly win. And
Mhm.
we never really have that, they never play well and whatnot. I don't know what it is.
I don't like how much hype is around the Lions.
Yeah.
I think, Dan Campbell's an amazing coach. Don't get me wrong. But you got to remember who their quarterback is.
It's true.
It's Jared Goff.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Jared Goff is a bad quarterback, but
Right.
it took Sean McVay to make him a decent quarterback.
Sure.
And Sean McVay is a offensive guru, and he was surrounded by weapons when he was in LA. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, for a while. Who was the running back there for a while?
Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
For a hot minute.
Yeah, for a hot minute, and then fizzled out. But
Yep.
At one point, he had like 5 offensive weapons that just how could he not fail? You had to be like Andy Dalton to make this bad. And Andy Dalton, not Cincinnati Andy Dalton. I don't want to trash him too hard.
Sure. I mean, having Jamal Williams too, I feel like really helped them last year. I mean, he had
and then
what?
they go and trade him. And
Yeah,
then draft another rookie running back? Like,
Right.
that makes no sense.
That's why I feel like this is a Detroit. Hopefully, maybe this year it's a Detroit collapse, which we've all seen. I mean, trust me, it could be worse for both of our
I
teams.
don't know why
here.
every analyst, every reporter thinks, oh, the Lions, yeah, they're the team. They're the team to take the North this year. I'm like, what?
Can we at least bring up the fact as well that their top receiver that could potentially be in Jameson Williams has more trouble off the field than actually being on
That's
the
true.
field in the
He's
first
suspended.
place?
Yeah.
Yeah,
First
exactly.
part of the season.
That's
yeah.
the thing.
That's
even more
insane.
crazy.
Classic Detroit. They're just like, Detroit's Vegas is paying everyone off. And everyone's like, Detroit's amazing. Let's just sweep all this under the rug. And Detroit's amazing, and they're gonna win the North. Okay, sure. I'll take my Bears to win the North plus 500. Heck yeah, I'll take that bet. Heck yeah.
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, honestly, I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty within the division this season. So, we'll
It's a very wide open division.
It is, and you're right.
It is, yeah.
So we'll have to see. But Mitch, it was a pleasure talking with you. What we always do with our guests that come on here, I know you're a Chicago fan and whatnot, but we do have MinneZona merch if you are interested. I know you got a couple stickers that we gave you from our time recording PBL for Omni Entertainment. And remember, part 2 of our game between Mitch and I, see who wins in part 2 on Friday. We have shirts. We have hats that are starting to be configured here too as well. So if you're interested in some merch, Mitch, we'd love to give you something too. So.
Oh yeah. I don't want to give up my Urlacher jersey, but I mean, for a MinneZona shirt, I'll put one on.
Yeah. Hey, Voldy's a jersey collector, so maybe work out a deal. You never know. So
make a trade.
Can make a trade, exactly. In division trade, as we like to say. So, but anyway, Mitch, again, thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, you guys have a great one.
You too. All right, that was our little exclusive interview with Mitch Riibe. I feel like we addressed a good chunk of things. I would kind of add, since there's been a lot of talk in the chats here, I think a lot of people would take Justin Fields over Danny Dimes, like we talked about. Rodgers is gone, but the Packers still own the Bears. Thanks, guys, for giving them another ring in 2011. You can thank Jay Cutler. I think that's the person you need to thank. And then Mitch coming in here on the chat. Caleb Haney will never be forgiven for what happened on that day. And then hesitation equals fear. Ergo, Mitch is scared.
Very much so.
Oh man, but it was fun, and we thank Mitch. And I don't know if we officially buried the hatchet, but we'll wait till Friday, and then we can kind of bury the hatchet there. So, but we will be talking with Mitch, getting him some merch, and just like you guys know, look at this, huh? Look at that hat, huh? It's very nice, very nice. So if you're interested in hats, we are in the process of getting those, and we'll keep you up to date on those, and as well as stickers, shirts, all that fun stuff, and we'll go through that later in the show. So thank you to Mitch, and make sure you check out our episode, part 2 of our game on Friday, and then, it'll be fun. All right, Voldy, time to go on to the North Remembers. July 4th in 2012?
2012.
Yeah, 2012. The Minnesota Wild go out and sign 2 of the biggest free agents at the time, Zachparise, Ryansuter, 13-year contracts. We're going to go into it because this is kind of it's controversial. There's a lot of people that were like, oh, it's the best time to be a fan. And some people are like, well, we got to look at the longevity of what happened here and things like that. So let's get it going with the North Remembers.
These are the moments enshrined in Minnesota sports history. The North Remembers.
The North does remember, and this one, for a lot of us, I'd say, a lot of us remember this one. The Minnesota Wild signing Zachparise, Ryansuter, 13-year contracts, lots of money, and it's still affecting. Those contracts are still affecting us to this day.
Yep.
So there's a lot going on with that. But, at the time, everyone thought, correct me if I'm wrong, Voldy, everyone thought we're winning the Stanley Cup with these 2 guys. 2 cornerstones, a guy from Minnesota, another guy, Madison, Wisconsin, close enough. This seemed like a match made in heaven, and this seemed like, they were going to do a lot of great things. And this is a great day in the history of the Minnesota Wild, said GM Chuck Fletcher, good old Chuck Fletcher at the time. This is a huge commitment on owner Craig Leopold's part, on our organization's part. It took a lot of courage and commitment for all of us to go after these players. Voldy, how would you kind of describe this time for the Minnesota Wild? And, do you remember that day? Do you remember what you were doing that day on 4th of July? What are your thoughts on that whole deal that day?
I don't really remember the day. I remember watching the press conference because, obviously it was the 4th of July when the signing did take place. And obviously this was also the beginning of, obviously, hopefully a very successful run with these 2 as well. But really to set the stage for the signing, you had to go back at least the season prior with the year that the Wild had, especially with head coach Mike Yeo back in the day as well. With that group that they had as well. Fresh signings with the likes of Danny Heatley, Devin Setaguchi as well. Those were going to be the guys to help lead the team, at least push them into an era where the Wild were more about homegrown talent, bringing them up through the minors and maybe signing some guys overseas as well, really laying the foundation, at least with some of the younger guys, to hopefully help push the team to the forefront. They tried with Danny Heatley and Devin Setaguchi to at least maybe get them out of their comfort zone and maybe make them a contender. No, that didn't work. They finished the season, it was 35, 36, and 11, finishing 4th in the Northwest Division, missing the playoffs as well. The top scorers from that year as well, Danny Heatley led the team with 23 points. Kyle Brodziak was a third-line guy.
He was.
The following season, him and Mikko Koivu had 44 points that year, followed by Devin Setaguchi. He had 36 points. Matt Cullen, I think this was the first go-around with him. He had 35 points as well. And the further the list you go down as well, the younger and younger these guys get, and the more just like, how long ago did this guy play for the Wild, too? Couple of cups of coffee, rotating in net as well. You had Backstrom, you had Harding, Matt Hackett was there for a couple of cups of coffee as well with the Wild. But that whole season, just a real head scratcher. But really in setting this all up for the following season, free agency opens up. Then you get, obviously, with the Minnesota Wild, you do get Parise and Suter matching 13-year contracts as well. Two guys that have been basically growing up playing against each other, with Parise playing at Shattuck St. Mary's, Madison with Suter playing with his home team and his dad as well, that being the Madison Capitals, a program, and obviously a family as well that my family is very familiar with too. My brother actually played for Ryan's dad, rest in peace, the late great Bob Suter as well. But at least a little bit of relationship there with both of them growing up, playing youth tournaments against each other, playing against each other in college. Parise at North Dakota, with Suter at Wisconsin as well. Then just going up, it wasn't a bad run for them once they went to the pros as well. Parise was in New Jersey. The year prior, it was Parise leading the Devils to the Stanley Cup final as well, losing to the Kings. Suter was that good 1-2 combo, him and Shea Weber in Nashville as well. Both those guys were high-scoring defensemen playing 20-25 minutes a game, foreshadowing that with the Suter playing in the Wild as well. But going all the way here this season, too, it was an interesting start for them as well. You do get the likes of Suter and Parise in the fold as well. Parise leads the way with 38 points. Mikko Koivu finishes out with 37 and 32 points as well for the likes of Suter as well. But there was a lot more of an interesting mix of guys too. In between the pipes too, you start to see a little bit more of a youth movement coming through too. Obviously, you did have Nicholas Backstrom, who did end up getting hurt at one point too. Then you have Josh Harding, Darcy Kemper started making his way up from the minors too. And unfortunately, it didn't go very far to start off. You're going up against a team in the playoffs as well that eventually ended up winning the Stanley Cup. That was the Chicago Blackhawks. You lose in the opening round of the playoffs in 5 games too, but really set the standard early on, especially with how young they were at that point with Suter, with Parise too. At that point, you would have thought that things would have moved a lot more forward with them, but it just, overall, the whole body of work, front end of their contracts, fairly successful, just couldn't get that next step forward, little by little. If we would have had them basically from like the first 2-3 years they got into the league, I think the Wild would have definitely won a Stanley Cup with those two on the team. But a lot of things would have had to go right with those two. But going into the next few seasons too, there was just a lot of stops and starts, guys playing more minutes. Suter averaging 30 minutes a game. Parise bouncing back and forth with injury, inconsistent play, questionable offseason moves, the front office changing hands, front and forward as well. The overall makeup of that team, too, with Suter and Parise, especially with that deal, it's still hurting to this day. Mm-hmm. Going into this season, I think this is the second to last year that they are under contract with the Wild, and they've been removed from the team for at least 2 years now. Because I know Suter's down in Dallas, Parise's in New York with the Islanders. I was going to say New England for some reason. That would have been wrong. But yeah, he's with the Islanders now, and then obviously Suter, became and turned heel against us when he joined Dallas as well. There's just too much of this that still hurts to this day. And I don't know if the Wild can ever really recover from it, just because they invested so much. They went all in on just these two guys that it's ultimately hurt them too. You've seen some of these young guys that have come up too. Well, now they're having success elsewhere, especially in the goaltending department. The amount of goalies that have come through the Wild and have had success elsewhere. Now it's really starting to hurt, because now they're just trying to figure out who's going to be starting in net. And, well, if we've seen anything from the playoffs, it's really just just rotating guys in and out like crazy without building up any consistent play. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, I mean, you would think with this new core of young guys that they've got with P.O.D, with Kaprizov as well, that it would certainly help them get that next step moving forward, and hopefully get them basically this curse of the contract off the Wild's heads, and hopefully bigger and better things still to come.
Well, I remember the exact same thing you had when you saw it. I saw the press conference. It was all over the news. Everyone on Twitter was saying they're going to bring a cup to, the Minnesota. And, was it worth it at the time? But at the same, but when you really look into it, during those years, they really carried a lot of the load, and there was a lot of pressure in that. I don't know if that affected them per se, but I do know that there's a lot to factor in with this team, and. They go into the first round. I think maybe it was their first years here when they went to the playoffs. They ran into a buzzsaw with the Chicago Blackhawks.
Every time they played Chicago, it's just like, all right, well, we're going to lose this series. And eventually the Blackhawks either lost in the conference finals or lost in the Stanley Cup finals. It was just perplexing how that kept happening.
And you factor that in, is it all their fault? No. I don't think you can pin that all on Parise and Suter because you got to have those pieces work.
Right.
I don't like the contracts, and 13 years, $98 million, and it locked them up through the 2024-2025 season. It's 2023 right now, and they've been gone from the team, like you said, a couple of years now. And
so we got to wait it out 2 more years to this date. 2 more years to this date for those contracts to be fully. Who knows? Those guys might retire before the season even starts. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll see. It's, Suter becomes like, oh, we loved him when he was here, and then all of a sudden he's one of the most hated.
Just
guys.
Turns heel
on us here and whatnot. But, I just think it's don't hate the players, hate the contract. I think that's the best way to put that. And granted, I understand what they were trying to do, but I also know that a lot of teams, the Devils wanted Zach back.
They did.
And obviously I think Suter was ready to move on from Nashville. But I think there might have been a better way to construct those contracts because, granted, look at their stats. They did what they needed to do. Yep. It's just they run into the Blackhawks or they run into this team. But do we expect more from them? Is this an overrated or people that say that they're overrated, they're not overrated. They just needed more help. And granted, they tried making that work, and Zach was here when Kaprizov was here, and pretty much Kaprizov started right at the get-go playing outstanding. So, and then Zach decided, I don't really want to be here. I want to, try and do something. And obviously the Islanders always had a thing for Zach Parise coming over there, and he ends up there finally and whatnot. So, I look at this as it was nice having him, but at the same time, maybe the contracts were too much. And if you want to point the blame, I think you pointed at Chuck Fletcher, if that's who you want to point the blame at with those contracts. So, but if that's what it costs at the time, then I don't know. It's tough to say. You can't at that point in time. You can't just say, "Oh yeah, this is going to work out great. They're going to win Stanley Cup." You can't plan for the future. But they took a shot, and unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. So, they'll be. No. I don't know if there's is there a Hall of Fame for Minnesota? Not like a Ring of Honor for Minnesota.
No, they'll definitely be honored. I think. Yeah,
their jerseys will be up on the rafters. Granted,
we'll see. Yeah. Let's hope.
Let's hope. Fingers crossed. Yeah. So, we wanted to do this since we know that a lot of you will probably be. Out and about during the 4th of July, but we thought we'd take you back on a journey that was, interesting, and it was fun, I'll say that, but at the same time, depending on how you look at it. There's some fans that say It was a great time. Other fans say that was worthless because we didn't get anything from it. So, maybe we have a debate on that sometime.
Right.
So, all right, that'll do it for the Northrum members. ARA, like we said, news coming out of the Wolves organization. NazReid is back with the T-Wolves. A little NHL news, and we got a lot of NFL news coming up here as well. So let's just get it going. Listen, absurd or approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it is time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Well, the Minnesota Timberwolves did lock up another big man for the upcoming season and seasons after that, as well as the Timberwolves and center NazReid agreed to a new 3-year, $42 million contract with player options as well. Now, Naz did finish off his season as well with his best season as a pro. 11.5 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, and 18 minutes per game as well, despite the fact having wrist surgery that kept him out of the final weeks of the regular season and also in the playoffs as well, too. But with the commitment that the Timberwolves have made to their big men in most recent years, too, with, Cat, and then obviously Rudy Gobert as well. Now you throw in NazReid into the mix. Is it absurd or approved the Timberwolves locking in NazReid with this new 3-year deal?
Well, I've always been a big fan, and we've talked about it here on the show, of NazReid. NazReid this past season was nothing short of fantastic.
Absolutely.
Until he got injured, and obviously, the Wolves. I think he would have made a difference in that series against Denver, to be honest with you. But at the same time, I feel like this deal needed to get done. He wanted to be here, and it's very apparent from the Timberwolves Twitter, and especially his teammates. They wanted him back. Now, I know that there's been some talk about... okay, they signed Naz, but, does that mean they're going to trade Rudy? Does that mean Cat's out of here, too? I don't think so, which I think is odd. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a little bit odd, too, but at the same time, it very well could happen. But I think Naz is deserving of this contract, and I think you got to keep a player like that, especially having a deep bench will get you very far. I mean, for goodness sake, look at the Denver Nuggets. That's exactly what they did. Yeah. And they had a deep bench, and they were able to, win the NBA Finals. Not saying the Wolves are going to win the NBA Finals, but you want that core intact. And it's good that you re-signed Naz. He definitely wants to be here. You kind of put that to bed. Just say, hey, we got Naz. We're good. We're good there. Now let's see what else we can do here with free agency approaching. They went in the draft. They got 2 prospects that I think could make a difference, hopefully this season, the season after, in a couple of years. Who knows? But it's definitely 100% got my stamp of approval with NazReid. I think Munson and Zappa, Rattel would agree with that too. So stamp approval for me. Voldy, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, it's not too uncommon. I mean, I think it's got my stamp of approval as well because of the fact that we've seen so many injuries from some of the big guys here for the Timberwolves, especially with Cat, as of late here in the last season and a half, that you need to lock up these big guys because obviously the person that's benefited the most from it has been NazReid, obviously putting up the numbers that he did this season, and hopefully he continues to improve upon that with this new deal, him locking him up for a couple more years with the Timberwolves. And, he's only 24 is the thing, which is a big benefit, locking him up at a young age, at least to start off, to help build off of, this season that he had too. And if Cat continues to struggle with injury, or maybe the Timberwolves go and do something stupid like trade him or trade Gobert, who knows at this point? You can't say anything about it without, consideration of those possible locations of trade as well. You got to have at least something to fall back on as well. And NazReid, you could probably build something around him a little bit, but you need at least a little bit of star power to go along with it too. Still a young guy, still getting accustomed to the league and everything, I think it's definitely got my stamp of approval as well.
So, our guy, NazReid, if you haven't seen the socials medias with him, pretty funny, I'm not going to lie. All those guys were, saying his name and everything and whatnot. And Kat even put out on his story there that he's happy Naz is back. So, it's all good vibes with the Wolves right now. So, All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, the National Hockey League came out recently this past week with the announcement that they are going to no longer be wearing specialty warm-up jerseys, as the season that was this past season led to more frustration than actual resolve of anything as well. Most of it coming with the representation of organizations that do relate to the LGBTQ plus community. Pride jerseys, players opting to not wearing jerseys over their cultural beliefs and obviously where they stand in their own home as well. So that now means that the NHL, not just pride jerseys, but all warm-up jerseys to begin with, no longer going to be a thing with the NHL, which doesn't just hurt the LGBTQ plus community, especially with the NHL trying to basically dig itself out of the black hole that is, with it being kind of, closed off from when it comes to outside organizations and initiatives as well. I mean, that means that the ban does include Black History Month, Women's History Month, Military Appreciation Night, Hockey Fights Cancer, as well as even some more localized celebrations like San Jose's Heritage Night as well, Hispanic Heritage Night. Like some of the Canadian teams, they celebrate their Indigenous First Nations people as well. The Wild have done stuff like that as well with the Prairie Island Indigenous people as well too. So it really hurts not just only, of course, with events like Pride Night, but also all the other communities, because for so long the growth of the game of hockey has been closed off to, for lack of a better, me sounding as as closed off as I can, basically white people that can't afford it, Canadians, Americans, overseas, obviously the Scandinavians, the Russians as well. But really, they had this whole saying of hockey is for everyone. Now you're just throwing everybody under the bus. Of course, they continue to support celebrations, of course, with the different groups and initiatives. But the way the season did end up just ultimately led to Commissioner Gary Bettman just putting the axe to it altogether. Do you think is it absurd or prove that the NHL banning not just the Pride warm-up jerseys, but other warm-up jerseys as well? And could we see other leagues follow the same pattern as well?
Oh, man. I mean, this is it's a loaded one here. I understand where, the warm-up jerseys, a lot of people spend time on. And, you want to throw your support out there to those communities and things like that and whatnot. And you want to, it is a very tough position to be in if you're the NHL. But with some of these, they're just warm-up jerseys. And you can wear them. I think we talked about this before, but you can wear them or you don't have to wear them. I feel like if that is the case, and we shouldn't shun people for not wearing them, and they have religious beliefs. Even I think there's something with Russia in this article, yes. With that as well. But I just think that the NHL shouldn't just shut everything down because of that, which I think is ridiculous. And I don't think the NFL is going to change the way that they do things, what they've done. But I also understand, you got to respect, what people think in certain areas with that. But I also think that, you have a choice. You can wear it, you cannot wear it, you don't have to wear it, and then leave it at that. But oh no, they got it. You can't. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
True.
So there's a lot to factor in here. But for things like Black History Month, Women's History Month, Military Appreciation Night, Hockey fights cancer. A lot of people do that. I mean, you know, it's not just LGBTQ, but it's this stuff too. And then them taking that out, I think it's absurd. And I hope that they don't. I hope that it doesn't create. I feel like it's going to create more problems than it is. So I'd say it's absurd. So Voldy, what do you got?
You know, I can see it from the standpoint, especially some of the foreign players as well, that did have to obviously step back from wearing the pride jerseys and things of that sort as well, because you throw in the fact as well when talking about citing religious beliefs or an anti-gay Kremlin law, especially for the Russian players, that not only just affects them, their families, most of their families are still in Russia as well. So if they see that, one of their players, and seeing that and not following the law that they grew up on, that's not only going to hurt them, that's going to hurt their families as well. So there's a lot that goes into that decision. I can't say that you're wrong for not doing it. You know, I think I remember it was PK Subban, who works for ESPN, a former NHL player as well, that, you know, I think like the league has to stop forcing athletes to become advocates. You know, if they want to believe, they want to buy in, absolutely. But things of this sort, with forcing them to do, I have no problem with that. But banning the warm-up jerseys altogether, like, I am always a big fan of that. I think there needs to be more of that, because there is just so little cooperation between all these different leagues and sports teams as well, especially the communities, like the ones that come to mind, like when Joe Mauer retired, the Wild wore twins warm-up jerseys with Mauer on the back of them. That was awesome. You see, like when you have teams night or whatever, like the Dallas Stars had Texas Rangers night, they came out in baby blue Rangers jerseys. That's awesome. Sure. I'm always a big fan of the other one that comes to mind as well is when the Wild had the Native American Night, Indigenous Peoples Night, with the Prairie Island Reservation that works with the Wild as well and is a big affiliate with Treasure Island Resort and Casino. They had like the Indigenous, they had the Wild logo in, I think it was either like Lakota or Ojibwe or something.
Oh, yeah. That
people's language as well, saying Minnesota Wild. That was awesome as well, with proceeds from those warm-up jerseys being sold out and going right back to to educational efforts for the indigenous population too, and stuff like that. I'm a big fan of as well, and it just always ends up being a hot button topic when it comes to pride, the LGBTQ plus community as well with pro sports. Major League Baseball had trouble with that with the LA Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw said he wasn't going to be wearing, or at least working with that because of the fact that they had some sort of Christian religion family night or something like that. That also led to the canceling of Pride Night for the Dodgers too, and the constant back and forth with everything that goes along with that too. There just needs to become a day, and hopefully this will be sooner than later, that this doesn't have to continue to be a problem, or people can just be people. You can love whoever you want. You can do whatever you want as well. You are who you are. Who am I to say that you can't be the person that you want to be? It's your life. You can screw it up however you want to. Just don't come crying to me when it doesn't work your way. I'm all for it. I support anybody and everybody who wants to be whoever they are. Just don't be a dick about it. That's all I got to say as well. But the banning of the warm-up jerseys, this has such a great larger impact than just the pride itself. I think it's completely absurd that NHL. Could we see other leagues doing it? With the NFL, Major League Baseball might be the next one to go, I would think. But like the NFL, NBA, I think there's way too many outspoken voices, especially in the NBA, for any of this stuff to really come to pass, I think. So I think other leagues are going to be safe for right now.
Yep. So we'll kind of see how that plays out, and I don't know. I feel like there's going to be a lot of issues once the season starts too. So we'll see. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, of course, a summer tradition leading up to the start of the NFL season has been Hard Knocks. Yes, the behind-the-scenes show of training camp leading up to the opening kickoff for the season may be changing course here very soon. Recent years, it has been the Detroit Lions under Coach Dan Campbell and squad that have provided some very hilarious highlight moments throughout their rebuild and not being the same old Lions as well. Well, it was reported that recently that Dan Campbell and the Lions said, you know what, we're not going to do Hard Knocks anymore. So that's kind of scrambling things around to see, well, who's going to be the team that we're going to follow this season, this summer, leading up to kickoff. And, well, it might be a team that's been making more news than actually doing anything on the field as of late. The New York Jets might be one of those that is going to be highlighted in the upcoming Hard Knocks series, of course, with everything that's gone off this offseason with the trade for Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, the young core talent that they do have, these offseason signings, players that continue to join the team, and even possibly more players coming as well. More coming up there with our next story, but there's even the Bears, the Saints, maybe even quite possibly the Washington Football Commanders. Look out, the commies are invading your television screens. Who knows? But with it possibly being the New York Jets for Hard Knocks as well, is it absurd or approved? Having the 2023 New York Jets would be entertaining for this season of Hard Knocks.
When I saw this, I pretty much said immediately yes, and I still think that. The reason why is because, well, you have Aaron Rodgers, but I will say that, well, we don't necessarily have to worry about it. But I feel like with Rodgers in the fold there, we already kind of know what he's like. Or, you know what, not even kind of. We know what he's like. And there probably wouldn't be anything that would be surprising about, what he'd say on the field. It'd be interesting to see how he interacts with his teammates when they're, in practice, things like that. But like you said, there's a lot of stuff going on with that, especially with the one and only Zach Wilson. Obviously he won't make Rodgers' life hell. I think they joke about that now or something. I read during minicamp or whatever it was. But I feel like Rodgers has kind of embraced the city of New York and obviously the New York Jets as a whole. He has the weapons. Defensively, they're solid, I'd say. It'd be interesting to see some of those guys like Garrett Wilson, Zach Wilson, throw that in there and shoot. Our next story, Dalvincook, if that were to work out. And we'd get to watch our guy, Tyler Conklin, as well. So that'd be kind of fun to see. I feel like that's kind of the likely, that's very likely that they'll be the team this year. The question is, will Robert Saleh allow it? Will the Jets as an organization will allow it? I mean, we don't know. So I think it'd be very entertaining. It's got my stamp of approval, but I'm still waiting on that Vikings one. We should just once. I just want it to happen. It'd be so much fun, and it'd be fun with the Zimmer. We've talked about it throughout the years and stuff. Like having Zimmer on Hard Knocks again would be fun, but O'Connell would be pretty good, I'd say. But it'd be interesting. And just kind of seeing what life is like with some of our Vikings. So, stamp approval. I think they'd be entertaining. Voldy, what do you think?
I think you have enough personalities in that locker room, especially with Hard Knocks. They're looking for the personalities. You've got the space cadet that is Aaron Rodgers as well. If he's not on the the psychedelics or whatever, the ayahuasca and everything, just getting into his football mind. It's not like he's a bad football mind. He has a great football mind, but you get him outside of football. This dude's kind of like, for lack of a better term, the dude's weird, but I guess you got to be weird if you're going to be a quarterback in that sense too. I really look at as well, what's it going to be with all these young guys? Garrett Wilson, you've got Sauce Gardner, you've got the guys that are going to be an impact hopefully for years to come for the Jets too. How's that going to look with the quarterback room as well? You got Zach Wilson, you've got, I think Mike White is still there, you've got former Gopher, former USD Coyote legend, Winnipeg Blue Bomber, Grey Cup champion Chris Strevler's still there too. He's fighting for a spot. Always love to see those fringe guys that are going to be, hopefully playing for their lives, obviously day by day and obviously preseason game by preseason game. So there's enough storyline there as well. You get a younger coach too with Robert Saleh as well, with him also serving as, a coach of a still a few years into League Two, but definitely provides a lot of personality with his tenacity and his fire as well. I think it's got my stamp of approval too, just because certainly is going to be quite interesting if they do go that route with the New York Jets.
Ayahuasca. I keep forgetting about that thing. Gosh. Oh man. Yeah. Stamp of approval's all around. All right. Next one, Voldy.
Well, we talk about the offseason that continues and potentially adding as well to that running back room for the New York Jets. And, well, some recruiting going on. And, well, one former Viking player and asking another former Viking player to join Gang Green. That's tight end tylerconklin, or Conklin, if you will, believes that there is, quote, plenty of room for Dalvincook in the backfield with his former teammate interested in signing and playing for the New York Jets as well. Of course, Conklin and Dalvincook were teammates for a number of years as well before Conklin decided to take his talents out to the Big Apple and New York as well, signing over there too. But, there had been some vested interest, at least putting it out there into the ether with Dalvincook, saying like, New York wouldn't be a bad place. But at the same time, you look at it as well, a little bit crowded in that backfield already. You got Breece Hall, who's coming back from injury. I don't know if he's going to be 100% or not. And then you've also got, Mike Carter as well. You've got a very loaded backfield already too. Got some guys that are going to be looking to solidify their spots on the Jets as well. But throwing him into the mix too with an offensive weapons that they do have in New York, and adding another one would certainly put them into the forefront of a lot of conversations too. But is it absurd or approved with Conklin trying to recruit Dalvin to New York? Is there plenty of room for Dalvin to be included for the Jets?
Ooh, gosh, it wouldn't surprise me. It seems like there's been talks. They've offered. Apparently, Dalvin's been getting offers, and he's just kind of been, taking it as it comes, like he was saying he was going to. So I like the optimism from our guy Conklin. Hopefully, he has a breakout season. I like to see him do well. Unfortunately, it has to be with Frogers, but we can forgive him. I don't know if I'd say plenty of room because let's not forget Breece Hall. You drafted that guy to kind of be the guy in the backfield. Michael Carter, definitely another guy that you want back there as well. So unless they really want to make a big pitch and say, you know what? Yeah, let's do that. Let's keep ahead of the Dolphins who want him. Keep ahead of the Bills who probably want him as well. So, I get where they're coming from that, but you got to factor in the money part of it because Dalvin's going to be asking for some money here. And Dalvin's agent, I think, one of those agents that is just weird. He comments on everything. He's very cryptic in the way he talks. I just feel like him or the Vikings and Dalvin's agent just never got along, and he's trying to uptick the price with Dalvin, which I get it. That's your job. You have to do that. And is Dalvin worth that money? In the eyes of some teams, they don't think so. So you gotta find that middle ground. Can the Jets find that middle ground? If you get Frogers in on this too, you can help recruit him. And Conk is definitely trying to do that. I think Dalvin retweeted it or something, or quote tweet, I should say, and said oh yeah, that'd be great type of thing, just kind of stirring stuff up. But to answer your question, I wouldn't say there's plenty of room. So that's why I say a little bit absurd because they have guys back there. But if you want to swing for the fences and stay ahead of the teams in your division, go ahead. But I also know too that Dalvin's got an asking price. So I'd say it's a little absurd. I feel like there's enough talent there, but I'm not going to say they're gonna it would help their chances to a Super Bowl if they got Dalvin, which I'll say. So, Voldy, what do you think?
Yeah, I just think that right now it's like, who are you going to maybe put on the back burner for right now, or who are you going to maybe look at possibly getting rid of here in the future as well?
Too.
Because you do have Breece Hall coming back, and if he doesn't tear his ACL in Week 7, he's the offensive rookie of the year for the New York Jets. I mean, he was off to a great start before his, he tore his knee up this season. What's that recovery looking like right now? Is it going to take him some time? Is he going to play it all in the preseason? Are they going to limit his snaps once they get to the regular season? You do have that. You do have, you've got a rookie coming in as well. And, you got Mike Carter in the mix as well there for them. And not to mention, they also have Zonovan Knight as well, who, did put up 300 yards in his rookie season too. There's a lot of question marks in that backfield. But again, it's like, who are you going to give up on, at least to start off, if you're going to be kind of, basically ring chasing already with adding Dalvin Cook to that backfield for a new team? Is it going to be a 1-year deal? Is it going to be a 3-year deal? Like, who are you going to be looking at and possibly trading or moving on from if you're going to be adding Dalvin to the mix as well? I think it's a little bit absurd. He should definitely be looking in other places too. I know that obviously he wants to play for his hometown team in Miami, and there's also even the likes of New England as well that have kind of floated some rumors out there too. But definitely maybe some other more lucrative and substantial offerings out there potentially, or at least other landing spots for Dalvin instead of New York itself. So it's absurd in my mind.
Well, let me add another thing here. Is it the right scheme fit?
Right.
I mean, I just feel like the best scheme fit would probably, in my eyes at this time, would be the Dolphins. You look at the Bills, they're more of a pass first. You look at the Jets, they're kind of all over the place. So, I mean, that's what it kind of comes down to as well. So, we'll see. I don't know. I don't think he's going to go there, though. For some reason, I don't think he's going to New York. So, we'll see. Last one, Voldy.
So the NFL did announce earlier today that there are going to be some more suspensions coming through with, of course, there being gambling-related issues with the NFL in recent years, and then most recent in the last year plus. More suspensions, players being nixed out of entire seasons for gambling on the NFL, gambling on other sports as well within team facilities or in the reach of the NFL itself. Looks like more players are going to be hitting the back burner here for at least a good portion of the season, if not the whole season as well. One of them being a player for the Indianapolis Colts, yet again, Isaiah Rodgers, who is going to be expected to receive a season-long suspension, of course, earlier this year and leading up into the offseason as well. 4 Detroit Lions players and 1 Commanders player were suspended by the NFL for gambling league violations as well. That'll have impacts on their team and obviously for the season that is ahead. Got Calvin Ridley coming back from a season-long suspension as well for betting on NFL games as well. And there's a lot of things that come to mind here, and obviously more adjustments when it comes to obviously sports gambling now being legal in a lot of states that do have NFL teams, and is becoming more and more attractive for the NFL to be part of this money-making process. But there's going to be more and more of these suspensions. Obviously, there's going to be adjustments in how enforcement of penalties, and even new players coming into the league, they're going to have to learn all of those rules as well. So it's adjusting how the body of work adjusts for the NFL too. But as we go further and further into this, is it absurd to approve with these gambling bans that'll be having an effect on play this upcoming season with these players that are going to be suspended here too with the upcoming season, if not even more players here in the near future?
Look, they have the rule in place. I'm going to talk, like, I get both sides of this. Here's the easy answer. Just don't gamble. You're in the NFL. They say not to gamble. Just don't do it. You don't need to. You're getting paid enough. And there are players out there that just don't get that concept. And they say in this article, don't be in fantasy football. Don't bet on your team. It's like, well, I'm betting on my team. Okay, that's fine. But at the same time, there's a rule in place. Just don't break it. Right. That's all you have to do. Mm-hmm. They have the rules in place. All you have to do is not gamble.
Right.
on your team. It doesn't matter if it's for your team or anything like that. Like, I get like, I'm, gambling on my team. Like, okay. But that's the rule. You just can't do it. Just don't do it. It's that simple. And, for Isaiah Rodgers, he came out and he takes full responsibility. Now, the suspension. I don't necessarily agree with them just saying, well, you're done for the year type of thing. I feel that is too harsh. But I'm kind of defending the NFL on this one because, you know what? They have the rule. They've implemented it. Just follow it. That's all you have to do. And some of these players don't understand that. Calvin Ridley being one of them. Unfortunately, he was out for the year this past year because he was gambling. Just don't do it. When you are retired, when you're done with football, then you can do that kind of stuff. You're already getting paid to play football. You don't need to gamble. You're getting plenty of money. And I just think that some of these guys don't understand that. And they're just like, well, I'm going to do what I want type of thing. Just don't do it. That's all they have to do. Don't gamble, even if it's for your team. Just don't do it. It's that simple. So, Voldy, what do you think?
I just think that this is going to continue to be a downward spiral for the league when it comes to the gambling because obviously they want to make their money, but you can't have the money if you don't have the product to generate the money as well. The product, that being players, teams, the league itself, play of the players, the play of the team. Team that is going to put butts in seats and also is going to get merchandising. Obviously, gambling as well that has taken over the last couple of years and really has skyrocketed as it's become legal in more and more states. It's just becoming more and more frustrating, especially for these players, because at the end of the day, they are human. They obviously, especially with these NFL players, nothing is guaranteed for them. Their contracts could end tomorrow. They get hurt. They've got really no other backup plans, and they could get released. They could get dropped from a team. They get traded. They need to have some sort of backup plan if they're smart. They're smart in handling their money. But you get some of these guys that are just looking to make a quick money right away when it comes to the gambling, and it just continues to be in a different world because especially with some players that are now coming to the league, they've taken full advantage of the NIL money in college too. So they've got money in their back pocket to be like, well, maybe I don't need to go play in the NFL or get a play just to get that big contract.
Right.
I've done enough at least with the sponsorships that I have that I've got the face and I've got the name to work with in that regard. But when it comes to the gambling side of things, they do have some rules at least set up to the key rules of basically don't bet on the NFL, don't gamble at the team facility, don't have someone bet for you, don't share team inside information, don't enter a sports book during the NFL playing season, don't play daily fantasy football as well. A lot of those things, regular average Joes, me and you, Joe Bag of Donuts, take full advantage of. We can bet whenever, wherever, however we want to. And these guys are human. They make mistakes too. And unfortunately, they have to pay the price. Calvin really sitting out the whole season. I'd really like to see how he progresses here this season with Jacksonville. Right. Now you're getting Jameson Williams, the guy from the Lions or whatever, who was supposed to be, their next big thing. Tore his ACL in the national championship game, had a little bit of a late spark, caught a touchdown against the Vikings, and now he's suspended for the first 6 games of the season. I don't really know what you're going to make of it, especially with the rocky start that he's had to the start of his career. Then you throw out guys as well, Quintez Cephas, C.J. Moore, key players for the Lions that are going to be missing out this season. I don't know what Shaka Tony's going to contribute to the Commies, but we know that it's not going to be, right now because of the fact that, he's suspended indefinitely for them too. So the Lions are hurting right now. Whatever the Commies had to begin with, they're not going to be looking to make a big spark right off the bat. Who knows what Chase Young's going to do this season coming off the knee injury from last season. Getting back to it all, the whole gambling thing, I think it is going to play into how the league is going to be affected this season. But at the end of the day, the big players aren't, betting on 4-game parlays, and hopefully they can hit the big over-under on how one team does on the West Coast game while they just finished up their East Coast game. They're focused on playing and hopefully winning a Super Bowl, too. So I think it is going to play into how the play is, but it's definitely going to be a lot of the role guys in the back ends of the teams that they play on. They're going to have a direct impact here throughout the season.
I mean, Jason Williams, how disappointing is that?
Right?
I mean, dude, you had the injury. You came back. You played well. You played okay. Well, you played well against the Vikings, and then you do something like that. Come on, this isn't rocket science, guys. Don't bet on the NFL. That's it.
You can't even call him a draft bust because he's hardly done anything to warrant, like, is he good? Is he bad? I don't know. We can't, like Trey Lance, you can't call him a bust because he hasn't done anything.
Exactly. So this whole thing, I guess I really didn't necessarily answer your question. But, yeah, it's got my stamp of approval. I think it's going to affect it. It's just, I don't know. Are these guys
I don't know
not
either.
Understanding what's going on? So that's just kind of my deal with it. And honestly, I'm sick and tired of seeing it because it's
me too.
It's dumb. It's just dumb. So, great job with ARA this week, Voldy. And, we can make bets. And the bet I'm going to make is shield shoutouts. We've got some shield shoutouts coming up here. Yes, I did take a cheap shot at some of these NFL players, but it was necessary. So let's just get it going with some shield shoutouts.
Shield shoutouts.
All right, Shield, who you shouting out tonight?
Well, we do have a couple of good news when it comes to Shield shoutouts here this week. Hopefully everybody has a wonderful Canada Day on Saturday as well and enjoys themselves. And, of course, always parties responsibly. 4th of July coming up on Tuesday as well. Hopefully celebrating responsibly as well, wherever you may be celebrating the good old US of A in the red, white, and blue. Hopefully everybody has a wonderful and great holiday weekend coming up here as well. I do have to wish a happy birthday to the Curve Doctor. Happy birthday to one of the originals for MinneZona Sports Live, so happy birthday to the Curve Doctor as well. We have to say congratulations to former Minnesota Twins player. He's traveled around a little bit since his time with the Twins, but Eduardo Escobar is now officially a U.S. citizen, so congratulations to him for taking his citizenship exam and him now being a full-fledged U.S. citizen as well. And sadly here this week for MinneZona Sports Live, and of course with Shield shoutouts as well, we have to say, sadly, rest in peace to a talent far gone way too soon. Former Tom Brady Clipboard Holders Association member Ryan Mallett. He sadly passed away at the age of 35, apparently in a drowning accident in Georgia, or I should say in Florida, unfortunately. Sadly passed away at the age of 35, served as a backup for Tom Brady, had ways with the Houston Texans and with the Ravens in his NFL career, coming out of Arkansas as well. Sadly, he will be missed as well, not only by his family, but friends, former teammates as well. And, of course, as a full-fledged creator of the Tom Brady Clipboard Holders Association, he will be missed dearly as well. That's going to do it for Shield shoutouts this week.
Yeah, I saw Jarius Wright and, former Arkansas players put out tributes and stuff like that. So
Brady also put out a little something as well. Yeah, a lot of players coming out of the woodwork for that too.
Do you remember that, or you probably do, that game against Carolina when Brady was barking at the ref after the game, and Ryan Mallett comes in behind him, and he's starting to yell at the ref.
You mean that pass interference against Gronk on Monday night that I had a full rant on with the Sports Zone? Absolutely, I remember that game. You never forget. Never forget.
I just remember Ryan Mallett just going up. I mean, I feel like he was more furious than Brady. When that happened. So that's one of the memories I have from that. But yes, obviously very sad, and thoughts and prayers out to his family. And yes, happy birthday to the Curve Doctor one more time. The one thing with the Curve Doctor that I want to add here, he's probably enjoying himself with a ice cream cake because the Curve Doctor's always
can't go wrong.
got the he loves sweets, and he's got a sweet
can't.
tooth. He's probably got sweet teeth. I don't know if that's even a thing, but yeah, the Perf Doctor's probably enjoying some ice cream cake right now. So hopefully he's not sick by the end of it, but can't go wrong with that. And Eduardo Escobar signed an old Sports Zone card that we had too.
Yes,
so that is still
got his
around.
autograph floating around here somewhere. Him and Dozier when they came to Marshall.
You're damn right. So that was a great time, and congratulations to Eduardo Escobar. So I remember he looked at it and he was like, well, okay, and then he signed it. So,
awesome.
All right, we'll take it. So, without further ado, Voldy, we got that merch, man. We got that those stickers. Oh, those stickers,
these
yeah.
guys?
Those bad boys. Make sure you check
Sure.
them out. You know the deal. $2 for the small ones, $3 for the big ones. Please let us know if you'd like some. We are happy to give them out to you.
Absolutely.
They're fully stocked and ready to roll. So make sure you check that out. And we have shirts. And, I'm kind of nudging Mitch a little bit because he should get some MinneZona shirts as well. $20, $5 shipping. We do have a limited edition one still available.
Yep.
Extra large. If anyone would want it, we got it for you. So we got that. And then, the hats we're working on. So if you want one, let us know. We'll put you on the list. That's all we can do at this point. But thank you to National Fleet Graphic, Crown Rental, Tyler Knutson for all of the stickers. And make sure you check out W2 Performance, Will Rattel at www.w2performance.com. Make sure you check out the victorious P.O.D. with Tyler Hermann, Jack Vickers. Fantasy football, it's coming up. Get ready.
It is.
Make sure you check out TLS Performance with Troy Stoudemire Jr. He's got meal plans. He's got workout routines. Check it out. Check out his Instas and Facebooks, and make
Still
sure.
good to go, Vikings.
Yep. We're ready. I'll send something. I will tag Troy, and I'll send you tape. All right, that's all we can do. But the last thing, make sure you guys check out Popcorn Bucket List. Nick Dahlhoff,
Yes.
Ryne, Myhrberg, Omni Entertainment. Those guys always come up with weekly episodes and whatnot, and also obviously we got those game specials, and that comes out on Friday. Again, part 2. Make sure you check out part 2. Less turnovers. I promise that. But I won't tell you who wins because I want you guys to check it out for yourself. But, Voldy, have you seen the first half yet, or are we still...
I've got it on my list. I will watch it before I go to work tomorrow, so...
Boom! It is a good time, I will say. It took
is.
us like 15, 20 minutes to actually figure out what we were doing after the kickoff because, there's a whole lot of things. So make sure you guys check that out. It was a lot of fun, to say the least. It was good going back down to Marshall, seeing the good old studio that Voldy and I know very well, and especially doing our radio show, The Sports Zone. So make sure you guys have a great, great 4th of July. I hope you guys wear your red, white, and blue proud, and you should. And make sure you guys are safe and whatnot. No fireworks accidents. We don't want any... JPP happening, Jason Pierre-Paul.
Please no.
Whatnot. So please be careful and whatnot. So, but without further ado, as always, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla!
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.